For those who competed decades ago, speeding down highways, through towns, country roads. For those who sat watching on the sides of the street, who found solace in chaos and thunderous speed. Even for those who grew up without the sights and the sounds, and live without race cars shaking the ground. Who don't understand why racing appeals to our fascination, wonder, and the way that we feel. A purpose-built place to camp and spend time with friends, watching racing together until darkness descends. Though no longer do the streets rumble and roar, there's a place just for this, a park to explore.
A road racing circuit before the assault. The 4 twisting, beautiful miles at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. For 6 brutal, ear-shattering hours, its serenity will be violated by the raw power of screaming racing machines. It's the famed end-of-season endurance classic, the Road America 500. The specially constructed race circuit at Elkhart Lake at normal speed is a scenic 4-mile drive through fall-tinted Wisconsin countryside.
Hidden by forests near Elkhart Lake, not a path nor a trail, but a road meant to race. In a town too quiet, the refuge we seek, Road America, the racetrack, the National Park of Speed.
In the early 1950s, sports car races were being run on the streets in and around Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. When the state legislature banned racing on public roads, a highway engineer named Cliff Tufte organized a group of influential local citizens and leaders of the Chicago region of the SCCA, the Sports Car Club of America, and Road America was born. The first race was held in September of 1955, and it featured up-and-coming West Coast gun Phil Hill winning a Ferrari Monza by an eyelash over Sherwood Johnston in a D-Type Jag. The next summer saw the first June sprints, and fans witnessed legend Carroll Shelby triumph in a Ferrari 121 LM, and Road America's reputation as a must-race venue was forever locked in. Road America remains North America's only permanent road race circuit that retains its original layout to this day, and it is the best example of building a permanent track that mirrors the feel of racing on public roads, in this case, through the beautiful Kettle Moraine Forest. Hi folks, I'm Greg Creamer, and welcome to round 2 of the second season of the Full Send Sim Spec Miata Esports iRacing series. This track has many nicknames. The track's official slogan is America's National Park of Speed. I call it North America's Nürburgring, and my partner Kyle Heyer has his favorite nickname as well.
Hi Greg, yes, I call this place the Jurassic Park of Motorsports. When you walk in this facility, it feels special. It feels like a national park, but also you can get lost here in the forest trackside. I did that myself a couple of years ago here during a GT race, and the sounds and the sights of this racetrack are some of the most spectacular in all of motorsports, not just in North American motorsport. And what a thrilling venue for Spec Miata racing. Long straightaways and a couple tight corners and heavy braking zones. Even with relatively slower cars like these Spec Miatas, we're going to see a lot of drafting and a lot of great racing today.
Yeah, and we're coming from about as different a circuit as you can imagine. I mean, Sebring is, has its moments of speed, Kyle, but it's really bumpy. This track, far more smooth, and it's blindingly fast. And you've got a flow speed everywhere here. I think these new, the new rule set that we're running here, a little bit lighter, a little bit more responsive for these cars as we take a look at this amazing layout. And that uphill climb there, nothing gives you the feel of doing it for real. It is steep out of 14.
Really steep, and it leads you down this very long front straightaway. The track flattens out. A lot of the elevation here is done in really turn 14 and turn 5. Everywhere else, it's kind of slight elevation, but you head down into turn number 1, pretty flat corner. It'll be 4th gear, maybe even 5th in these cars. Very, very fast. Turn 2 is really just a kink. Turn 3, that's a passing opportunity in a braking zone. Then you head into turn number 4. That's another just kind of a kink. Heading down into turn number 5, Greg, and that is probably your best passing opportunity on this 4-mile circuit.
It really is, and it all starts, of course, getting a good exit out of 3, but it's a downhill and an abruptly downhill braking zone. You sort of get a feel for it here with the elevation look down into 5, and you're almost turning as you start. Some drivers like to straight line into it, some like to go wide like we just saw, then straighten it out. Get the weight on those right side tires and then flow speed into 5. Out of 5, Kyle, it's a really quick climb up into one of the trickiest circuits or turns on any circuit ever in my mind. Turn 6, you come over that abrupt rise right as you get into your braking zone. You brake too early, you're slow all the way through 7 down into 8. Brake too late, you're off into the gravel on the outside of 6. It's tricky.
It is challenging, and then you head into turns 9 and 10. That's the carousel, long, sweeping right-hander. Late apex here to set yourself up for one of the most treacherous corners in racing. This is the kink at Road America. It is fast in these cars. Flat out, maybe a confidence lift, but on corner exit there is a really gnarly wall that has not moved since this track was paved in the 1950s. There's a look at it. That concrete hasn't moved much, and you're not going to move it very far either, even if you run into it. Then it's a run down through the forest.
Many have tried to move it over the years.
Yes. And here at the real racetrack, I wish I had a photo of it to pull up, but the right side wall where everyone goes off on the left and then they sweep back to the right, it is absolutely covered in impact marks, Greg. It's a treacherous corner, but it leads down to, I think, one of the most picturesque corners in North American motorsport. Canada Corner, the northernmost turn on the track, turn 12.
Yeah, and it too is a great overtaking area, but again, you're coming through that bending, twisting a little bit, so you've got to really get yourself established coming in. It's actually a little quicker than you think when you first come up to it. Then you exit Canada Corner, and I love this sequence here. It's a little straight, and then you just a little bend to the right. Now through 13, you turn in so much earlier for 13 than you think, because it's a little bit wider than it looks. The bridge that used to block everybody's view there is gone, but it's still a blind turn in, and you turn in earlier and you have faith, and you might even use there's a crossover road between 5 and 14 there that you might even use on the exit. But that corner, it takes a lot on that one just to cinch it up, because it, like everything else here, really is pretty darn fast. And then 14, of course, Kyle, massively important and quick in its own right.
Yeah, 4-mile lap. This is a long one here. That means in our 25-minute races, we're not really going to get a lot of laps in these races. The pole sitter right now, provisional pole for Jordan Ricks-Ingrini, he's working on his second lap, but so far a 2:43.878. I think we're going to see a little bit quicker than that, but just long laps, Greg. That means you've got a lot of opportunity to lose ground in just one lap. We're going to get in 25 minutes, maybe 7, 8 of them, not a lot. So you're not going to get a lot of opportunities to recover if you're bad at one particular corner. You have to be good at all of them. But the draft is going to help you. Long straightaways, especially from 14 to 1 and from 3 to 5. That will give you some time to use the air to suck yourself right back up to the rear bumper of the driver ahead.
And I would think in these cars you can get a good tow as well. You got to be careful when you come through the carousel, that run through the kink. You got to be a little bit careful drafting somebody there, but you should be able to get a nice little tow down into 14 as well. So as you said, there are opportunities here to make up from a little mistake, but the best thing to do is just don't make that mistake, right? And it's 14 counted corners. There's the odd little bend here that they don't even count. But in those key corners like that, if you run wide and you just lose a half a tenth, well, if that happens in 4, 5, 6 corners, suddenly you're down half a second. And that's how quick things can get away from you here. Oof. And, whoa.
Getting busy.
Certainly is. And it's still Ricks-Ingrini staying up top, that 2:43.8 by only a tenth right now over Nicholas Rice-Puto, who's looking really good in the practice session beforehand. And Morgan Burkhardt, who's been on a bit of a run, not just here in our series, here in iRacing, but in real-life racing, running his Spec Racer Ford 3, SRF3, has put together some serious wins, one of them in a pouring rain at VIR. It's just a brilliant drive. So he's just got the mojo right now, doesn't he? Here he is through the kink.
Yeah, and again, pretty much flat out there, fifth gear, 100 plus miles an hour. Again, we're not really breaking the land speed record here by any means, but you're going fast enough to break something. If you miss your breaking point, you're still on the edge. Morgan Burkhardt, though, he's given us some onboards. Now, he's busy right now because he's trying to get that provisional pole, but that has not stopped him from offering us a perspective of an onboard lap. So let's drag Morgan in here, setting up for another qualifying lap. Morgan, I know you're busy. You're on your flying laps trying to qualify here, but take us through a lap at Road America. It's a long one.
Oh, it's for sure a long one. Most important, or one of the most important parts of setting a good lap is getting a run onto it. And especially here, is you're basically driving up a wall to come up onto the front straight. I don't think this really does it justice as it is in the real world. I've never been here, but I've talked to a lot of people who have, and it's just not the same. It's like nothing else. Coming down the one of many long front straights. It's a difficult one. It's a lot of long straights connected by a lot of 90 rights, something like that. Turn one, fast right-hander, deceptively fast. You kind of want to just throw the car in, using all of the road. That's going to be a common theme here tonight, but just throwing the car in, making sure you can get all of the road you can, all the speed. Same with turn three. Just, if you can carry that little bit of extra run, you can get an extra mile an hour, 2 mile an hour at the end of the straights, because they're all so long. We might actually even get to sixth gear in this car here. So it's difficult to do. Coming into the difficult turn 5, you have to straighten the car up just before you get on the brakes. What I like to do is come over this curb. You can use a lot more of the entry. It opens the corner up a lot more. Using the exit as well, you can carry a lot more speed. It opens up the radius, and you're not using up the tires as much coming up the hill. Turn 6 is very difficult. You come up over the crest, the car gets really light as you're having to brake and then turn in. So it's a difficult one. 7, again, flat out corner, but if you're going side by side, you can just kind of drop it off the road and end up in no man's land. But this corner, I'm gonna call this one the most important one here tonight. It leads on to the longest straight because the carousel is flat out. You just hold an inside line, keep your foot on the floor. If you can get a good run coming down out of the hurry downs, onto the back straight, through the kink, and into Canada corner, you're going to be golden. I'm thinking you can come from, I don't know, 6 or 7 tenths back and be, I don't know, beside them, right behind them, going into Canada corner. So it's very difficult to do the kink in this car. You just turn and put your foot down, pray. It's not a gut clench corner like it is in some other cars, but as soon as you put 2 cars wide through there, it gets real sketchy real fast coming into Canada corner. Heavy braking zone, good passing opportunity. It's a little bit weird because it kind of bends right before you get to it, but it's another corner like turn 5, like turn 1, like turn 3. There's a lot of runoff room, and you can use all of it coming up out of Thunder Valley. Pretty sure that's not, no, I messed that up. That's a different track. But coming up to the final end of the lap, the final corner, one more time. Gonna flow the car through the corner using all the rumble shows. Like I said, it's a common theme here tonight. Coming up this hill, every mile, if you can gain half a mile an hour coming out of the final corner and carry that all the way up the hill, that's going to be 3 or 4 at the end of the front straight, because the hill is so steep and this car has no power. So there's a lap of Road America.
And by the way, Thunder Valley was correct.
Oh, it was.
You were thinking Mid-Ohio, too. They have one there.
Yeah.
But that area out of Canada corner, that's Thunder Valley up through Billy Mitchell. So
I do know something.
Yes, you did.
Thanks, Morgan. We'll let you get back to work. P6 right now. Good luck to you. 3 minutes left.
Okay.
And with that,
that's pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing.
I was going to just say really quick, just his point about driving up a wall. My first race ever here at Road America, I was in an ITC Toyota Starlet. And on my best run out of turn 14, I'd flow through there in third, grab fourth, and then lose speed all the way up until I crested that hill. I couldn't downshift because the gearing wasn't right. So I just lose speed until I got over the crest of that climb. That's how steep it is.
Yeah, and you know, Greg, we were talking just pre-broadcast here about my first on-track experience ever was here in 2020 in the rain in a Spec Miata of all cars. And what I learned was that iRacing in particular was an incredible tool. I was so nervous to go on a racetrack in the wet at a place like this that is known for being really treacherous, especially then when the pavement was really getting worn out. They've since repaved. My first time here, I thought I was nervous. I went out on the racetrack and felt really at home. And I don't think the sim piece can be understated, how important it is if you've never been to a racetrack to get the sight lines. And now I know when Morgan goes there in real life for the first time, he's going to feel very at home. The one difference, and it never comes through unless you're in virtual reality, is elevation change. And that's why you talk about turn 14, you talk about the dive into turn 5. Nothing, the climb up the hill in Watkins Glen and the S's, nothing prepares you for the intensity of that, but at least you know where you're going.
Well, and that's huge. And I remember, there were a number of years ago when I got asked when Bob Varsha was calling Formula One for speed, and he had a conflict with the Tour de France, and they asked me to fill in for him. And the two races I did were the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim and the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. And I had just spent a fair amount of time driving both of those tracks with a friend. It was amazing that how much, and that was back in, this was nothing like Sims. Just lock a wheel onto your desk and go. How much training that helped with. And just to make a note here, we're heading into our final 30 seconds, and right now Beans Forster is up by almost 0.4 of a second on the field. Caleb Patry right now sits second, Rowan Gill third, and Rick Segrini in fourth, who had been so quick in that practice session. And Rice Puto, then Burkhardt sitting back there as well. So this is interesting how this is starting to shake up here.
And that's how it's going to stay, because none of those cars are on the racetrack and qualifying is complete. 23-car field here tonight. Preston Pardus up to 11th. But Beans Forster, a really strong lap. We're going to have him and several others on camera tonight, so we'll get to watch them throughout this event at home on their sim rigs. And Greg, two great partners. Final Turn Motorsports is one of them, and we've also got some other partners with us. Take us through those before we get green here.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Full Send Sims and Court Schmidt, the founder of that, the owner of that. The sims that they build are just remarkable, and they're the title sponsor of this event, the series, sort of the visionaries of it, and a great job. Then you mentioned Final Turn Motorsports, Rob Greenwood, the owner. It's a full-service prep shop and trackside support. They do dyno tuning. They're a Miata tranny builder, and also 3P Logistics, owned by Frank Rodriguez, and they do logistical support too. Basically tailored trackside support, and they'll also do some race car storage, maintenance, repair, transportation, whatever you need. And just to remind everybody, season awards, top 3 in the championship at the end of the season will all receive trophies. P1 will also receive a direct drive wheelbase. P2 will get a set of load cell pedals, and P3 will receive your choice of an H-pattern sequential shifter or a 2-year paid iRacing subscription. Just to note, all Full Send Sims admins and instructors are not eligible for trophies, or are eligible for the trophies, but not eligible for those hardware prizes. So even if you're outside of that top 3, don't give up, because you could still end up in there. Remember, there are one-on-one instructions available. All you have to do is go to Full Send Sims, one of the instructors, and they are good ones. Morgan Burkhardt, Beans Forster, and Konrad Chachik. They're all there. And we're going to be having some more FSS, Full Send Sims racing schools, coming up as well. So really full immersion. Everybody's all in from Full Send Sims on making this series special, Kyle.
And it is already special. We've seen some excellent racing in seasons past. Some changes to the car setup. Again, these cars are running a little bit more weight and a little less power to better simulate the Spec Miata class cars. And what that means is that they're a little slower, they're a little bit more trundly than perhaps this car would be unaltered, but they made some changes to make it a bit more lively, and that was the case at Sebring last week and should be the case here at Road America this week. We have a very long pace lap, 4 miles around. This is one of the racetracks that the short pace lap configuration that iRacing offers starts you basically at turn 14, which doesn't give you any time to get any heat into the tires and brakes. So we'll go for the full lap around here at Road America, Greg. Let's get through our starting grid and kick things off with row number 1, Greg.
All right, and as we take a look at that, it is on pole, Beans Forrester, Ben Forrester, driving the number 23, joined by Caleb Patry on the outside of that front row, the number 998.
Row 2 is Rowan Gill, the number 174, getting a start on his championship competitor. That will certainly be Morgan Burkhardt. Jordan Rick-Singarini in the bright blue 108 starts in 4th.
Starting in the 5th spot is Nicholas Rice-Budo in the number 5, joined by points leader Morgan Burkhardt, sitting in the 6th spot, driving his number 40.
He swept Sebring. Can he do it again here tonight? Giancarlo Schooler rolls off in 7th in the number 111 car, and Dean Dibdal in the number 191. He starts 8th.
Starting in the ninth spot, the number 32, Skip Brock Jr., and in 10th, the guy who comes in here third in the points, Joshua Soto, in the number 77.
11th place, it's Preston Pardis. That's a name you're familiar with seeing in MX5 cars. Thomas Pendergrass starts 12th in the number 36.
Starting in the 13th spot, the 042 of Seth Pullman, and he'll be starting alongside in 14th, Court Schmidt of Full Send Sims in the 172.
15th place is Deacon Greenfield in the number 10, and Trace Hance rolls off 16th in the number 53. Trace was really quick at Sebring, never really got a chance to show it though. He'll start P16 on the outside of row 8.
And the 17th spot, will be number 14, Noah Harmon. He'll be joined on that row by the number 95, starting at 18th, Rocco Pascarella.
And starting 19th is Max Bankin of the number 16. Didn't get a clean qualifying lap. Jim Friedhofer starts 20th in the number 89.
Starting 21st is Caleb Pocock in the number 6. And starting 22nd, Rich Green in the number 22.
And the last driver that will start this race will be Jillian Fichter in the number 12. Jillian will roll off 23rd. At the moment, I do not see the 12 on the racetrack, so that will mean that Jillian will start from the pits or will not start at all. Rolling through the carousel here under pacing speed, 60 miles an hour. That's about half of what they'll be doing when they come through the kink on lap number 1. Greg, the kink on lap 1 is the big treacherous factor. You're not quite up to temp with your tires yet. You're in a pack of cars, and getting sight to this corner is critical here. If you don't see exactly where you place the car, this single groove turn will bite you in a hurry.
Oh, it will. And as we heard Morgan say, 2 abreast through the kink, even after you've got heat in the tires, is sketchy at best. When you've got cold tires, that can really be nerve-wracking, and of course it is tailor-made for the big one, so everybody's got to really be careful there. Coming in here, as you mentioned, Morgan swept Sebring, so he leads the points by 9 right now over Beans Forrester, who's on pole. Joshua Soto was third, only 1 point behind Forrester. Then Giancarlo Schooler, another 5 points back, another 3 back is Nicholas Rice-Puto, and then Skip Brock. So that gives you an idea of where the points sit right now. Everybody's got to figure out a way to demote Morgan by a few spots here to get back into that points hunt. They've done their job in qualifying. Can they hold on to him in the race? That's going to be the question.
Rowan Gill might be the best suited to do that. Caleb Patry has been very fast. I don't think we saw Caleb last week at Sebring, so good to have him back here in the virtual paddock at Road America, and now one final time through turn 14. And when the pace car peels off, Greg, it is up to Beans Forster to bring us to the green. It's a long run from when the pace car pulls off to when that green flag flies.
And up that hill we go. And remember, Rowan Gill at Sebring was fast, but had no points, had a big crash. So he's going to be the guy. It's going to be interesting. We're watching for that green flag to fly. Forrester has them, and there it is. We're green. Caleb Patry right with him as they come up to the top of the hill, side by side. Patry, if they stay like this down into turn 1, he might have a little bit of an advantage because you can work the outside nicely into 1. How deep is Beans going to go? He turns in, goes to the apex, but Caleb Patry sweeps the outside and takes the lead away. Jumping up there as well, Jordan Rixagrini in that blue car trying to hang on to third, Kyle, and Rowan Gill trying to deny him that third spot.
What a start by Patry to get the lead away. Behind them, teammates fighting. That's Rice-Puto and Burkhardt. They're side by side for 5th. And now the run up to turn number 5. Jillian Fichter, by the way, has started from the pit lane, so that's all of our vehicles on track now. Side by side down the backstretch, pushing and shoving. This is Road America in a Spec Miata. Look at the crossover there.
Oh, what a big move. And look at that. Burkhardt is latched onto the back of Rowan Gill, and the two of them would love to work together to get to the front, but I don't know that Rowan wants to tow Morgan to the front at this stage. Down to the inside. Oh, Skip Brock running a little bit wide down there at the bottom of 5. Gathered it up. Just lost a number of spots.
Yeah, I heard an engine expire up the back straightaway as well. It wasn't Skip Brock Jr., but somebody blew up a motor, misshifting. We've seen that be a challenging factor in previous rounds and previous races, that these H-pattern, old-fashioned 6-speed gearboxes can lend you some trouble if you're not very used to it. Patry and Forster nose to tail into turn number 8.
Opening it up just a little bit. Rixagrini in that third spot, and then a little gap back to Rice-Puto, Gilf, Burkhardt, that big pack coming. All right, here we go. First time now into the carousel. Tricky corner this, even in these cars. It just continues. It's over 180 degrees. It folds back on itself a little bit. And here we go, the run into the kink. Patry leading Forrester in. Then Rick Segrini coming through right to the edge. Everybody so far at this stage. Oh, big wide run. It looked like they saved it. Beautiful piece of driving by Tom Pendergrass. Wow.
That was a moment for sure. He got the car off on the left. And all you have to do is straighten the wheel out. If you try to jerk it back on course and steer it to the right, you are going to crash. If you straighten the wheel out, you use the grass that's there, you can usually keep it in one piece through there. But that was a big moment for the number 36 of Pendergrass. I don't even know if maybe he lost one spot there to Preston Pardis. Behind them, Seth Spolman in the 042. And Skip Brock Jr., we saw him have that mistake at turn 5, Greg. Started in 9th, he's fallen to 12th in one lap.
Yeah, and we saw him at Sebring close down a big gap all on his own at one point. So I don't know that he's going to be in it to the win, but he might be able to do something about the podium here as we're seeing. Now, Rick Segrini is closing in just a little bit. So we get a look here at Beans in the cockpit here. And right now, I think he's just trying to work with Patry and just try and push these two and keep that gap building. Then he gives a little bit of room to Patry so he doesn't get into the back of him going into turn 1. Pretty savvy racing there by Beans.
Whoa!
Rasputo wide.
That was a big moment, and you're going to see that a lot. Turn 1 now in the real world has paved runoff in a much wider ripple curb, but here in iRacing, this is still as of about a decade ago in terms of the off-track area, so you can find yourself in the gravel trap there a lot easier than you can now. Preston Pardis is around at turn 3, and he's in the wall.
Oh, man, he has just had a tough start to this championship. Yeah, he backed it in pretty solidly, it looks like. Oh, there.
He fought it, and for the lead.
Ooh.
While all this is happening, up front into turn 5, Rick Segrini passed Forster, and look at this battle behind him. All the red cars packed up together.
Yeah, and Forster got him a little bit off rhythm, and I think Rick Segrini got through as well, as you said. So it's Patry up front, then Rick Segrini, and let's watch what happened here. Yeah, Patry coming through, just ducked underneath. Watch it here, Kyle.
Yeah, he had a run a lot earlier on the straightaway than I thought, and just outbrakes him cleanly into turn 5. An excellent pass. If you're alongside by the time you're in the braking zone, you're generally in the clear, but that's challenging even in these cars. Usually you get overlap a little bit later. You're trying to dive up in there, but it's such a tight corner that running into someone's door at the apex is so easy to do by mistake.
Yeah, and look at that side-by-side between Rick Segrini getting onto Forster there has given Patry that little bit of a margin and has allowed the 174 of Gill, the 40 of Burkhardt, the 5 of Rasputo. After his little off, Burkhardt was able to slip through, and now that's allowing them to close up, and pretty soon I think we're going to have a pretty solid pack once again.
Well, accordion back together as it always seems to do. Court Schmidt working his way around.
Right in front of him, a big wiggle by, I think it was Rocco Pasquarella.
Yep.
Yeah, that 95.
Got a run on him here into Canada corner, Greg. Will he go for it? No, he's going to back out. Didn't have the overlap, hoping that Pasquarella overdrives Canada corner, and he does, and he's passed. Look at that.
It's a nice job. And often you see that happen. Somebody has that little mistake, either through the carousel or the kink, they lose that momentum, and then they decide to try and make it all up in the braking zone of Canada corner, and that's really difficult to do. Still, side by side, down to the inside of the 95 of Pasquarella. Is that Spolman?
It is Spolman in the 042, and then he's going to drag race him up the main straightaway. Deacon Greenfield's got to pick a line. Well, the line clears up because the 95 slots ahead of Spolman, and now it's 2 against 1. The 6 of Caleb Pocock's back there in the mix as well. That's that Miller Lite-looking car there. And for the top spot again, look at that pack is reforming, as you mentioned, Greg.
Yeah, they have reeled in now Beans at least here. And look at Court Schmidt with those guys duking it out behind him. He's got himself the most breathing room he's had thus far. And then you try and go side by side through turn 1. It works if you're trying to make a pass, but if you're just trying to race somebody through there, it just slows you down. And at some point you've got to decide, all right, just tuck in and live to fight through another corner here. But look at this scrum, just that slightest of margin, not even 4/10 for Patry. And then it's crazy, and look at this, a double push down to the inside of Forster. And let's see, is Gill gonna try? He thought about trying to get by the blue car, Rick Segrini, couldn't get it done. But Forster now freight trained, because on his left is the number 40 of Burkhardt up into 6.
And it's hard to hang on here on the outside of 6, but if you can keep it, you'll have turn 7 to the right. The touch there as Rasputo gets a tap from the quarter panel as they were all coming off the turn, bouncing off of the curbing and rumble strips through turn 7. Now they get singled back out. The 191 of Dean Dibdahl. He's a new face in this series. I don't think anyone's got familiarity with him yet, but look at Soto down the inside for 8th place.
Yep, on Dibdahl right there, and that touch was Schooler. Actually got into the number 5 of Rice Pudo. Just a little bit of a touch, and it just skated him sideways. And see what they're going to be able to do at this stage here. Schooler has shown some speed. Like I said, he comes in here 4th in the points after a really impressive run at Sebring, and he's dialing that up once again, sitting in the 5th spot, all over the back right now of Beans Forster.
Ooh, watch that overlap there. It's so easy to get a little bit alongside. Up front, Caleb Patry trying to grow that distance, but this is the Road America we know and love with these low horsepower cars. You get this kind of drafty racing where you can't really escape. Look at Soto, early turn in to get past the 191. He will, but Dibdahl crosses him back over. Excellent read there by the 191. They're going to bang doors up the hill.
Little touch there. I don't think Soto quite realized he had come back at him right there. And this has got to be a little frustrating for Josh. Remember, so quick at Sebring. Came on really strong at the end of last season. He's got to get up front and get after. Oh, we got a big one.
Wow, one car
that is huge.
And over.
That's the exit of Canada corner. And that is a tricky little spot because so often somebody will try and come down underneath. We almost saw that with Soto. Watch it here.
Yeah, it was a 16 of Max Bankin that sort of set that off. And then the 6 of Pocock bouncing. And wow, that was a big one for, what car was that? 22 of Rich Green. Yep, you're right. And I would love to go back and watch more replays of that. It's getting spicy for 2nd place. Gill, Rick Cingarini, and Burkhardt all battling for position.
Hell, man, and Patry is just sitting there going, oh, here they come. And just relentless on the charge up here. And there it is. Burkhardt able to nip underneath now and firmly grab that 3rd spot from Rick Cingarini, who's now got Beans Forrester on his 6th. Schooler, Rice Pudo, all in that snake. And now, let's see, Gill and Burkhardt, they've been able to work with each other coming up through the pack. There's only one in front of them, and that's a teammate to Morgan Burkhardt here in Caleb Patry.
Yeah, the 40 has been slowly, one at a time, clawing his way forward. But Rowan Gill, again, we've seen him run with the 40, but now he's got track position on him as well. But how much will that matter here? Gill hasn't beaten Burkhardt all that many times, despite him being very similar in pace. I'm sure he'd like to put the 998 behind him.
Well, and I tell you what, the other thing that I'm kind of intrigued in here, Kyle, is, Morgan talked about that lap, how he likes down into 5 to go way to the outside of the entry curb and use that. He just did it there in a lot of traffic, and I'll tell you what, if I'm a Rick Cingarini, I might just square up, go straight to the apex down in there if Morgan keeps doing that. Morgan's savvy enough, he's going to know you're coming and open the wheel up. He's not going to risk taking himself out, but that's the one spot where I see him maybe being a little vulnerable. Look at this run through the carry. Isn't that a pretty shot?
Love that shot. The virtual drone, cameras by SimTV, Finney and DeCuna. And oh, look at the dive there, just overlap enough. If we were running in aero cars, you'd be trying to get some air on the nose here, but these are almost purely mechanical grip cars. So none of that business. Look how tightly they are packed together to the inside.
Does he go for it? He's got the line. Morgan is pushing him. Gill to the inside. Now, don't overdrive the corner. Oh, and I think he got a little tap from Morgan there, unintentional. And out wide he goes. The 111 of Schooler floats out wide as well, and suddenly it's Beans Forrester and Morgan Burkhardt. And look at the number 5 of Rice Pudo coming up with Beans going, look, let's lock this out and get back up front. And a pretty big wrinkle now in the back of the number 40 of Burkhardt.
Yeah, and I think a wrinkle to the back of the 174 of Rowan Gill as well as Rick Cingarini's off at 14. That's going to kill any run he had up onto the main straightaway. That was a big one. That was kind of ugly down there at turn 12.
It was.
Let's have another look at it here.
You see what happened. Was that?
I think Burkhardt gets into, or does Rick Cingarini get? Oh yeah, he gets into the back of Burkhardt, gives him the shot, and that's what sends him into the 174. And Patry also caught up in it into the gravel.
Yeah, he didn't run as wide as Schooler did, but Patry off. Yeah, good eye. So that resettles things a little bit here. And Beans Forrester, after having been dropped back to 5th, suddenly finds himself leading with Rice Pudo in 2nd, Burkhardt sitting in 3rd, Schooler in 4th. I think those are 3 team cars, aren't they? Rice Pudo, Burkhardt, and Schooler.
Yes, and we have 9 cars in this lead group right now. And with we just saw, any one of those could come through and win this thing. We're still about halfway left to go. But look at how quickly they pack right back up, Greg. You just can't get away.
Yeah, this draft is something. And that little, well, it wasn't a little thing that happened down into Canada that time. Going in has brought Dibdall into 5th. Gill still there in 6th. Patry now diving down and trying to hang on. But look at Ricks and Greeny square up underneath as they head back up the hill. But it just brought Dibdall, Gill, Patry, Ricks and Greeny, and Soto is in the mix side by side through 6. Oh man, I'll tell you, that was a nice job by Ricks and Greeny, giving Patry just enough room. Does Patry return the favor here?
Whoa, there was a little bit of a slip and slide there. They might have had a bit of what we call net code there. I saw the 77 bounce as if he got hit, but there was space between the two cars as now Soto has a look, and the 108's in the gravel. Can he hang on to it? No! He's going to tag the 77, and they save it.
Somehow, they saved it. Yeah, that's sort of that anticipated code contact, isn't it?
Yes.
The game thinks you're going to hit, so you hit, whether you do or not.
No matter how fast the internet is, it's not fast enough to predict where cars are going to be to inch accuracy at 100+ miles an hour. So iRacing has code that will basically predict where you're going to be a couple 100 milliseconds from now. And sometimes that code is a little bit wrong in where the car is actually going to end up, and you get that ghost contact. But that was a minor example of it there. I've seen cars bounce off each other.
Beans dropped his right into the grass and turn in. Got away with it, and I think because Rice Pudo saw it coming and checked up just a little bit. Man, Beans got away with one there, Kyle.
Oh, he certainly did. By the way, the dealership has got, I guess you can have any MX-5 you want so long as it's red. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Even Beans' car is red. They just put some black on it, apparently. And we hop on board here with Dean Dibdall. He's doing a fabulous job all over the back of Rowan Gill. And I'm not that familiar with Dean, but he is up to the task here, really having a solid run.
Right in the thick of it and doing all the right things for the moment. 11 minutes to go. And Rice Pudo and Forster back to the point. Morgan Burkhardt back to 3rd. Then it's Schooler and Gill. Here comes the 111 as Schooler out to driver's right, having a look at Burkhardt.
And that's exactly what those guys want to see, is see Burkhardt being demoted just a little bit. He looked like somebody a little wide through 1 gathered. I think that was Rowan Gill. But I'll tell you, 2 of the prettiest shots in all of racedom are the tails away through 1 and tails away through the kink.
Agreed.
Just the drifts that those cars take through there is spectacular.
Drivers don't get any time to enjoy it, though. Here comes Rice Pudo, and now they're ganging up on Forster. The teammates going to the left, and there's not much Beans can do about this.
Yeah, I've often wondered why he doesn't move over and protect a little bit there and maybe force them to go the long way around.
I'm not
See
sure
what he does. Can he do some sort of over-under? He's going to try and work the outside. Man, may have made that work. He's going to be a little out of position up the hill on Schooler.
You go the long way around of the 111. No, he's going to get, he's going to get turned.
Oh, he gets tapped. Got tapped by Burkhardt. And Burkhardt got loosened up big time. Great job by Beans to save it, not have it get into the wall.
Yeah, but that's going to destroy his race. He will drop down to 10th place. And I think, was there a touch here from the 40 right there? He just drifted out a little bit wide, Greg, and turned around the 23.
Yeah, Morgan had squared up 6 to try and get down and underneath. And when he went to the throttle, it just pushed a little wide there. It's easy to do. Now through the carousel and up to the kink. And it's Rice Pudo, Schooler, Patry, Burkhardt, and Gill now your top 5.
There's that run through the kink, and 4 teammates lead the way. So the first driver that is not part of that team is Rowan Gill, running in 5th place, and he's got a score to settle, I think, up front.
Seriously. He's coming after him here with everything he possibly can, and the guy right in front of him is Burkhardt. And I just have a feeling that oftentimes these two guys reference off of each other. Look at Schooler, outside move through Billy Mitchell, and he may have made that work, and the only reason that did was because Rice Pudo sensed it and gave him a little room. But for Rice Pudo, that moment of generosity cost him 2 spots because Patry comes through as well.
Well, they may be teammates, but that wasn't very team driving friendly there. That was some friendly fire out of 13. That was wild stuff. I guess when they have 4 drivers up front, you're kind of free to race because Burkhardt's playing rear gunner for everyone else. So this team's feeling pretty good right now, but they have work left to do, because that 174 and the 191 of Dean Dibdall are not gone. They are still there, and Joshua Soto lingering back there in the white car.
And you know, out of 14 and up the hill, the 111 of Schooler had about 5-6 car lengths on Patry. It's gone. It just changes up that fast. Here comes Rice Puto now down to the inside of Patry, down into 3. And doing this, you better get that corner right and not have to tighten your radius up like that, because it'll kill your momentum. And Burkhardt really got caught out there, and he's going to get freight trained here. Look at that. There could be 3 cars that go by Burkhardt by the time they get down to 5.
Yeah, there was some contact there with the teammates leaving turn 3, and that's what slowed them down. So Gill is going to get by the 40 of Burkhardt, put him in the rear view, and now focus on the next 3 teammates that are line astern into turn 5 and behind. Look at Soto on the brakes trying to go by the 40 of Burkhardt, and he will do so, but he's not going to clear him just yet.
Nope, yeah, Burkhardt ramped the outside. Soto has a good spot now up into 6. The Burkhardt's going to try and work the outside. Soto drifts a little bit. Oh man, but Burkhardt still got that inside into 7. And wide through 7, it is off camber and another touch. Oh, and Soto, does he? Wow, he saved it.
Oh boy,
unbelievable.
He had his hands absolutely packed full of steering wheel there for a minute. That was incredible.
Oh man, and I'll tell you, the outside of 7, it's off camber as soon as you turn in. And if you are brave enough to go outside, you've got to also understand that the guy inside might float a little wide. So you're really taking your race in your hands by making that move here. Looking back at Patry from Rice Puto there. Schooler driving one heck of a race.
He really is, and he's got a smile on his face as he has had the last round and a half. He's leading right now, so that smile is justified, but he's got some work to do to hang on to this lead. Here comes Rice Puto with a run to the inside into Canada corner, but he's going to stay single file. Didn't create the overlap there, and that stacked him up to where Rowan Gill is right on the bumper now of Patry for 3rd.
And it's interesting because you protect down into that turn. It's effective, but you're generally going to be a little slow coming out, and somebody can square up and get underneath you. Because of that little right-hand kink into Billy Mitchell, the 13th turn. That's one of those no-name corners, that little right flick into it, and you could square up underneath somebody. Look at this shot. As you said, red is the color of the Miata, that's for sure. Wow.
And then Soto got
booted.
Red,
I would imagine.
Yes. we got blue and white, but they're a little further back. The red ones are the fast ones. And look at the run. Look at, you see the push from Patry to Rice Puto to the inside.
Yeah, and nothing Schooler could do there. All he could do now is try and just stay around the outside, and he may have got that done, except Patry just filled that lane here, and now he's sort of frozen on the outside right now. But if he gets a little gap, he could actually, Schooler could get a nice run through 3 here and pinch. Yep, that's exactly what he did. He got a better run out, and that now traps Patry to the inside, tightened his radius up, and Schooler is on the prowl. But here comes Gill and Burkhardt.
Yeah, Gill getting a push from Burkhardt. That inside lane's going to get very busy here because the 5 goes defensive. We haven't seen a lot of drivers move to that line yet because it's so easy to get pinched at turn 5, but he'll move back to the center of the track as Gill is now inside of Patry at 5.
And look at Patry staying with him on the outside here. Gill giving him room. Great to see side by side now. Up through here and right there, Gill cleared him just enough, and I think Patry realized he didn't have that overlap, so he's just going to tuck in. Burkhardt trapped on the outside there, but managed to just using every piece of the racetrack as it makes that off-camber drop. He just stayed with it. Does he get out deep? Wow. I thought he might try and get down and underneath Patry there. He decided better of it.
I saw a puff of smoke there. These cars do have ABS, but I think he managed to get one of the tires to lock up just for a moment. And one of the other challenges here at Road America, we didn't talk about it too much, but the curbs here, they are made out of asphalt. They have sunken and kind of gotten into this undulating pattern over time. They are incredibly rough, but here in the sim, you can drive all over them. You're not going to break anything, so just go for it. And that's why you see drivers extending these racing lines all the way out onto those curbs.
Right now, Schooler working hard with Rice Puto, trying to build just a little bit of a gap here. And for an instant they had it, but Patry and Gill have wound them right back in again just that fast. And look at Soto down to the inside. He and Dibdall have been having a heck of a side-by-side battle, and Soto finally sneaks through, but
this was that.
There's that nudge.
This was that slide where he almost lost control. Look at the hands in there. Let's get one more look at this through turn 7 and just watch the hands at work here.
Wow.
Formula Drift was at Road Atlanta last weekend, guys, not Road America. So we'll have to try that one again.
That was serious handfuls of lock, is what they would call that. All right, coming up on 2.5 to go. So this lap and one more, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's what it says for me. I didn't see the white flag waving. No, it did not. So it should be 2 laps to go. That was close, actually. The lap times here, 2:47's last time by. So it's. In theory, we could get a checker. I've seen that happen before, but it's going to be very, very close. Rice-Puto, Schooler, Gill, Patry, Burkhardt, your top 5. Joshua Soto, Dean Dibdahl, Rick Singrini, Skip Rock Jr., and Beans Force for the rest of your top 10. Ort Schmidt loses a spot to Pendergrass down there at turn 1, tries to cross him over.
Well, Pendergrass had that great move earlier, that nice save, and he and Court are just getting after it here. Absolutely fun battle to watch. All right, Patry showing the nose a little bit here on this long run down into 5. Rice-Puto trying to figure out the best spot to go. And look at this, Gill, a monster lunge down to the inside, does not pick up a spot, but got Schooler to float pretty wide, but Schooler just gathered it up. Wow, this is some fabulous stuff. Now up into 6.
Oh, he got
there.
Oh, man, there he goes.
Oh, and into the wall.
I saw that coming, Greg. He left the door open, leaving turn 5. And when they went up into turn 6, he had Patry clearly established along the inside. It wasn't much overlap, but there was overlap there, and just didn't leave him quite enough space and ends up in the barriers.
Man, and Gill had been pushing so hard. Watch it here.
He's got the nose alongside. They get up the hill into 6. You're just hoping the guy will cut you a break, but too late in the race for that. And around he went.
Yep. So,
Patry's got his hands full still.
Yes, he does. Soto, we have seen his speed. He has come alive, and he has worked his way up. He's right alongside Burkhardt.
Oof. We're the kick.
Side by each, man. And I use side by each because they are heading into Canada corner. It just seems right.
I mean, going through there sideways or side by side in a go-kart is scary enough. Dive on Canada corner. Is it going to work? He has to bail, and he's going to get hit from behind. Burkhardt runs out of momentum and has to give him a shot. Here comes Rick Singrini.
Yeah. Boy, that could have been exactly what that group up front needed here to give them a little bit of breathing room and settle it between themselves. Rice-Puto, Schooler, Patry. There we go, Soto.
Whoa.
Oh.
Rowan Gill on his roof.
Oh, man.
Wonder if this was finishing out the frustration or if this, well, maybe not. Got in the grass.
Got it a little wrong there. I'm looking to see, is it a white or a checker as we come up the hill here?
It is going to be a white, so we're going to go. That was with how many seconds left? Maybe 2?
Yeah, 2. It was that close.
All right.
And there's Dibdahl in the background trying to make something happen, but this duo now is finding themselves out front a little bit. Rice-Puto over Schooler at margin about a second right now. Back to Patry, then Soto, then Burkhardt. You think that's enough here for those two to end up making this a mano-a-mano?
It's 9/10 of a second's a lot. I don't think it's impossible for Patry and Soto to make it up, but they have to be working together, and who knows how much of that Soto will be doing. They're not close enough to push, so I think Rice-Puto and Schooler, if they save this for the second half of the lap, they'll be fine. If they start battling right now, I think Patry and Soto could get there.
And let's see, Schooler, I think, savvy enough to know, nope, let's just run line astern here.
Ooh, well, here's some contact in the background. Oh, okay, this is a little further back, but this is Pendergrass and Schmidt. Yeah.
These two have been going at it for the entire race. This is for 10th. And right now, Schmidt has it. And they have been back and forth constantly. Oh, look at this. Late lunge here by Pendergrass.
Cross him over.
We're going to do the over. That's what I'm thinking.
Woof. Up the hill to 6. Braking duel here. We saw this get drivers in trouble last lap.
This is so tricky. That's how you do it, gentlemen. Well done.
And then into 7.
Well done.
It's harder here. You're going a little quicker.
Yes, it is. Court swinging wide. Well, I thought he was going to flat track it there for a minute.
Me too. They are not done yet. Neither are the leaders, though. A 10th between them, and Schooler's last real opportunity is at 12. I've seen people out drag up the hill from 14 to the stripe, but that takes a lot in a car like this. Side by side for the lead, Greg, to Canada corner.
Schooler using the outside line, trying to pinch Rice Puto. He's got to make it work around the outside. Tough to do. Here we go into Canada. Schooler drops that left side tire, floats out wide. Game over. He's going to lose second, third, fourth, fifth, then gets hit. Then gets hammered by Rick Segrini. So it is Rice Puto with Patry in second, and Soto suddenly finds himself in third as they come up to turn 14. And Patry, if he gets through here a little bit better, you called it, Kyle. It's the run up the hill.
Rafting up to the checkers, Greg. Here they come up the hill for the final time, Greg. Here they come.
Rice Puto moving, juking around, trying to break the toe. I don't think Patry's got enough. Right now, he pops to the inside. The line coming out at the line. It is Rice Puto, and it is incredibly close by what scoring says, 54 1/1000ths of a second. Rice Puto to Patry with Soto another second or so back. Wow, and look who was fourth.
Where did he come from?
He has just threaded his way through all kinds. He did it again.
There was even a closer fight for 8th place between Pendergrass and Court Schmidt for 8th. 51 thousandths of a second between those two.
Oh, holy cow.
We'll go back and watch the accident a little bit, but let's have a look at our race results here before they turn over for race number 2. Unexpected ending there, a little bit of dramas with the teammates, but Rice Puto and Patry, they battle it out to the stripe. 56 thousandths is the win margin there. Soto, Skip Rock Jr., and Giancarlo Schooler are top 5.
Yeah, absolutely, and Schooler obviously trying that outside move, and I think it would have worked. He just dropped his left, kind of like what Beans did that one time on turn-in, and it got away from him. Beans ended up fighting his way back up into 6th. That's good for points. Dipdahl in the hunt the whole day, and then Pendergrass and Schmidt absolutely battling. Pendergrass ends up 8th. What a fun race those two put on, and then Rick Segrini completing your top 10.
And Rocco Pascarella down in 11th place. Max Bankin started at the tail of the field, rallied for a 12th. Seth Spolman, Morgan Burkhardt 14th with that collision. Fell all the way back to where Rowan Gill is, so those two will have to fight again in race number 2. Then it's Jim Friedhofer, Caleb Pocock, Rich Green, Trace Hans. They're still finishing up their race, but Trace Hans on down, Greg, out with early collisions in this one.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Trace Hans is a really, really top-notch coach at the Concourse Club at the Opa-locka Airport in northern Miami, and is very highly rated. So I'm looking forward to seeing him have a clean race here and see what he can do. Just a note coming in here, Rowan Gill was 15th in the points, basically only had 11 points coming in behind Morgan Burkhardt, and he was hoping to make up some ground with where Burkhardt finished. Look at how close that was. With where Burkhardt finished, it was like a wonderful opportunity for Gill, just not to happen here. Watch this again now.
Yeah, the 111, they're going to touch right there.
Oh, yeah.
That's what got him off track. And then tried to get it back on course here, then just nowhere for the 40 to go.
No. And then got collected by Dipdahl.
Oh, man, that was messy.
Oh, unbelievable. Now, will the series officials take a look at that touch between the 5 at Rice Puto and Schooler?
Can change the results now. I'm sure they'll look at it, but I mean, I guess in the moment, I'm not sure that they'll admin anything live or issue a penalty for this next race, but certainly could be a points penalty into the next round. And when you're fighting for a championship, that could be a factor, Greg, for the race leader there. So we'll have to consider that and check back in next week. But no penalties in the moment. It's always post-race.
Right, and obviously we know that Nick, that was not on purpose. I mean, these cars move around a little bit, and but still, it took out a competitor in the battle for the win. So they might look at it, but we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, we'll get
one a little bit farther. Yeah, one more look here.
Yeah, I was going to try to find it again to take a little bit closer look at how it began, so here is a look at it. Maybe we can look at it in slow motion. But they were coming through here. The track bends to the left. But right here, does the 5 sweep back over a little bit further? I mean, it's just the slightest of touches that kicks the whole thing off. This is still a little ways up the straightaway here.
Boom, right there.
So close. Let's look at it one more time from this angle instead.
Yeah. And Schooler had straightened out right there, so it was definitely the 5 moving over. And you know what? I think that was one of those anticipated hits. Because I didn't see the 2 cars actually touch there.
Yeah, again, the net code is the terminology here, and I think that could very likely be the case.
Yeah, watch it here, because they never touched.
It was very close.
Their mirrors maybe did.
Yeah.
That was about it.
That's one of the things that the new damage model that this car doesn't have here in iRacing. The new damage model, those mirrors would just break off instead of being the impact point. But then the 111, the challenging thing here is would this be considered an unsafe rejoin? I'm not really sure, because he's not, to be fair, he's not actually on the track here, because he's still to the left of the white line. And
he was
also
just trying to save it.
Right, he wasn't fully under control yet, so I don't know how much the blame there is to be had for that part of the incident, but that was the unfortunate piece of it all. Man, look at all those cars.
And I really don't think that was an unsafe, because he had just straightened it out and would have been fine, and then he got tagged by Burkhardt. He wouldn't know where to go either. Yeah, and actually, if we watch Burkhardt's onboard, we'll probably see that there wasn't much to see until it was too late. Right here, pops out from behind Soto. Yeah, I don't think there was any issue there at all.
I'd agree. And again, right behind Soto, can't see. Look out!
Oh, big car.
And he tried.
Oh, everything he could. Ooh.
Man. Might be a simulator, but it still hurts to watch.
Yeah, it does.
So, 2 minutes of warm-up time before we get back to green, Greg, for race number 2. Dramas here in this first race. Lots of exciting racing, though, and this is the hope was that the setup changes that this car has seen for this season would make these cars race a bit more like this. This is SM at Spec Miata racing at its finest, right? You see these draft packs, you see the pushing and shoving. That's all kind of part of it, at least the nose-to-tail pushing and shoving. But this car didn't do this last season, so it's interesting to watch.
Yeah, it really is, and I think that little bit of weight drop that they put in here has made these cars just a bit more responsive, and obviously you get a car that's more responsive, you're inclined to push it a little bit more, aren't you? Just give it that little extra bit, and because the car responds a little bit better, and so you're gonna those limits get tested a bit more, and I think that's what we're seeing here.
Certainly testing the limits, and they'll do it again in race number 2 here. We'll grid them up how we finished, and that means that Morgan Burkhardt and Rowan Gill both have a lot of work to do, and for Morgan especially, he swept Sebring, so he's got a points advantage, but you can do away with that pretty quickly if you have 2 races outside of the top 10, and especially with your teammates who are going to run well all season or running up front.
Absolutely. And anybody who's in this for the the full season here that is a contender for the championship are going to be thinking about those points here. And Rowan Gill obviously really hurting right now, but a couple of those other guys you mentioned with the finish that Morgan had are going to be a lot closer at this stage. So this race, Morgan has got to really put one together here to get back into it. And man, he is certainly capable. Let's take a moment before this next race happens to again say a big thanks to Court Schmidt at Full Send Sims for building remarkable sims, and also for having the vision to put together this championship, this series, and do it at the level that it is being done. I think it is absolutely spectacular. Also to Frank Rodriguez of 3P Logistics, one of the presenting sponsors, just a great support for the second season in a row. Same with Rob Greenwood, and Final Turn Motorsports is doing a wonderful support job as well. So a big thanks to all 3 of those very special entities here for making this series what it is, and I think it's pretty darn special.
It is special, and
I'm biased, I give you.
Me too, but this racetrack also is part of the equation, I think, at least this week. This racetrack is special. We don't go to a lot of racetracks that aren't special, let's be honest, but as far as North American road courses go, and I'm going to extend this to Canada as well, easy top 4, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, Road America, Road Atlanta, Watkins Glen.
I think that's, and there are those who would argue about Monterey and Laguna.
Sure. Yep.
But, that's a shorter track. We're talking, and it isn't the outright speed bowl that CTMP is. But this place, we talked about it at the top, how it was designed to mirror driving through the same roads that they used to road race on, carved through the Kettle Moraine Forest here, which was basically carved by glaciers, and up and down and over the moraines and everything. And, 4 miles, this has that feel more than any other track. And I think that's what sets this one apart to me.
And I think there's a lot of similarities between this track and Watkins Glen. Think of how they both started racing in the town nearby. And in the 1950s, the government said no more of that. And basically this, Lime Rock Park, Watkins Glen, there was a whole bunch of racetracks that were built in the mid-1950s as part of this American surge of road racing. And this track in particular, Watkins Glen, we documented it in the Grid Life round a couple of weeks ago, Greg. That place has changed a million times since they originally paved it. Mid-Ohio has seen changes. Laguna Seca has seen changes. This track, though, with the addition of a little bit of runoff here and there, it has not changed layouts, which is really rare, even internationally, for a track to not change over the years.
Yeah, and the layout remains identical. I mean, when they paved it, they've widened it, but the actual track of the corners and the like has remained unchanged. And I had a moment where I thought, well, what about Canadian Tire Motorsport Park or Mosport? But the original layout, that Moss corner they call it, was a hairpin, and Sterling Moss said it would be better if you made it 2 tight corners, and thus that's how Moss Corner was named. So it changed from its original layout. So makes sense here.
One of my favorite things, and I documented this earlier, why I call this place the Jurassic Park of Motorsport, is if we look from high above here, basically the far left, the top leftmost corner of the facility there, just to the right of the pace lap indicator, there's a forest there, and that's basically all kind of campground and trails. And you can walk back there in the middle of a race and just hear the sounds echoing through the glacier-carved region, echoing off the leaves and the trees. It is a special, special place. And it also has zones, right? This track is so big that there are different areas. If you like a big open picnic field, you can have that in the inside of the carousel. There's picnic tables everywhere, big wide open sites. You can have the elevation of turn 5 or 14. You can nestle yourself in the forest at Canada Corner or at the Kink. There's so many different places around this racetrack. It has feels like it has different zip codes almost.
It is. I mean, that's a great way to put it. It's monstrous, So I love the Jurassic Park of Speed. I think that's fabulous just because of the size and the scope. One of the cool things is nowadays, if you guys haven't been there for a while, is now there is an actual trail you can take a golf cart or a bike or whatever and get back and watch in the kink. Actually watch them run the kink. Up until about 5 years ago, you couldn't do that unless you put on some serious hiking equipment and went up in there. So, it's pretty cool. This place, the management here has done an incredible job of evolving it into the future while keeping so much of it so much the same and just special. And we're getting ready for a special race.
I think we are. The other thing I love about Road America, and I cannot wait to go back this year, is the food here is unlike any other racetrack that I've ever been to.
Brat Egger, 2 words. That's all I got to say, man. Brat Egger for breakfast here in heaven.
Well,
okay.
Doubled up, Greg. Here we go.
Yeah. Woo, buddy. This is going to be fun. Rice Puto on the inside of the front row. Patry on the outside. Soto on the inside of row 2. Skip Brock on the outside. Let's see if Skip can have a start here from a position that keeps him up front and see what he's going to be able to do, because he now has twice this season already made monstrous charges. Having a look here at Giancarlo Schooler, the grinner, as we're heading up the hill, getting ready for the start of this second race here at Road America. For Full Send Sim, Spec Miata, watch for it. We're green. Rice Puto, Patry, side by side. Look at that fan out. Look at Gill, way to the inside, trying to do something right from the off here. He's desperate, and he gets covered up. Smart move there as well. And they are still side by side. Now, Rice Puto, does he have enough, or is it going to be Patry around the outside? 3 abreast going into 1 back in the pack. Does everybody make it? No. Oh, they were so close. That was huge.
That was Max Bankin. That was a big impact into the wall. We'll look at it a little bit later as we head down into turn 3 for the first time. He was the only one that didn't make it out the other side of the start, which is astonishing to me because there were cars that where the pit rejoins the racetrack. There is a section of pavement when you pass the pit wall. Some drivers sweep out to the right because there's more pavement to use, and then it runs out. It narrows back down, and that almost got everyone in trouble again.
Yeah, just some crazy stuff. And your pole sitter, Bryce Budo, has slipped back just a little bit because he got pinched on the inside. Patrick made that outside move work, and here comes Rowan Gill trying to work his way up as fast as he can. Up now into that 10th spot, and guess who's right behind him?
You couldn't plan it any better. 17th to 10th in the first half of the lap. That's a good, strong start. A little bit of side-by-side behind him. Rickson Greeny and Spolman in the 0:42, and throw Preston Pardis back in the mix. He was out early last race looking for redemption this time.
Yeah, he is, and right now, Gill and Burkhardt are right behind Court Schmidt. And what we keep in mind, we saw those two in that first race come from a little bit deeper in the pack than normal, and didn't take long for them to find that lead scrum. Just saw the Deacon Greenfield right there. I think he had a little bit of an off coming through. Was at turn 8 maybe?
Yeah.
Now he's back a bit, but look at Patry has opened up a nice little margin here, and Skip Brock in second.
Through the kink for the first time. Everyone keeping it on the road so far. And Bryce Budo, we'll see how long he'll stick behind Skip Brock Jr. and if Skip's got the pace to stick with the 998. He was not really involved in this lead battle for the majority of the first race. He got there in at the end. Look at the passes happening back here in the field. Rowan Gill up to 9th place, 8 positions gained in 12 corners.
Yeah, both he and now look at that's Court Schmidt fighting with Burkhardt right there. And Burkhardt, that outside run is going to be always quicker through turn 13, or Billy Mitchell corner as they call it. And so they get through, and Schmidt right now caught that inside curve a little bit, bounced him out, but he's still sitting right in front of Jordan Rickson Greeny. Oh, and a bit of a schmozzle there at the exit of 14. Jim Friedhofer involved, a couple others.
Yeah, Trace Hance is one of the others involved there, and wow, that car is destroyed. That'll be a quick trip to pit lane, and turn 14, I think the 89 just kept coming. Friedhofer closed the door, and Trace was there.
Yeah. All right, back to it here as we're watching the 191 again of Dibdahl. He's really been impressive in this weekend here, battling it out with some of the best. Oh, and a touch there. That was that same sort of a deal as Dibdahl in the 95, just getting locked up there, Rocco Pasquarella.
Oh, and I was just going back live to show you that Pasquarella looped it when he tried to get back on the course. And the same sort of scenario that we saw here, as you mentioned. Just the slightest of touches, and it puts one car in the grass, and then it's too late to save it. Right there.
Yep.
The gravel. Good news is the gravel here in iRacing isn't going to get you stuck, so you can drive right out of it and carry on. That won't exist forever. I would expect that to be changed. We're expecting rain sometime in 2023 in an iRacing update. When they bring rain, I'm sure it'll come with it a whole bunch of surface enhancements that will make many things slipperier and some things grippier, and I'd expect gravel to be one of those things that gets changed.
Yeah, in real life, when you get that gravel, gets water soaked, it packs a bit. And if you go off and you just keep your boot in it, you could drive right through it. So, may not affect things too much here. But on the other end, maybe in the game, the gravel will get really soupy and you just get stuck. Who knows? But right now, I'm just enjoying, for all of his travails, Skip Brock has never given up in one of these races. And then he did it at Sebring, coming from way back. He did it here in this first race, coming from well outside of almost the top 15 up into the top, 6?
Yeah.
It just,
fourth.
It's so cool to see him right now running right up at the sharp end of things. He's worked so hard at this. It's great to see.
And he's got the pace right now, too. He's actually run Patry back down, which is good to see. Even with the adjustments to this car, it still does seem to be a little harder than perhaps the newest generation MX-5 to stay in line. You can fall off if you don't have the pace, but Skip Brock Jr., Rice Budo, Soto, he's got assistance from behind as well, which I think is helping him stay with Patry. But as soon as they get this bunch back together, Greg, we see how explosive it becomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Schooler right there behind Soto, that's your top 5. Then a second back to Gill and Burkhardt, Rickson Greeny, and but they're coming.
And Preston
there
Pardis,
they are,
right behind Court Schmidt, giving him a shove down the straightaway in the Hickson Motorsports car.
That'd be nice to see Preston get a clean race here. He was in the scrum a bit too often at Sebring and had that incident early too. So That's really important, isn't it? When you're giving that guy that push, to remember to check up just a little bit so that he can get to the brakes. And you've got to remember to brake just that little bit sooner as well. But boy, those two cars just working with each other, they can close up some great stuff. And Schmidt doing a nice job right now, hanging right in front of Pardis. And they're closing in just a little bit on Rick Segrini.
Yeah, they are closing in. So is Rice-Puto on Skip Rock Jr. He looks to driver's left into turn 5. And it's interesting you mentioned braking a little bit sooner when you're following the car. That's why we can see drivers like Rowan Gill make up so many spots when the teammates are all nose to tail like that, because they have to give up a little bit of time to facilitate staying single file. If you can get in a different lane by yourself, you can pass a whole bunch of cars being aggressive on the brakes.
That's a really good point. And of course, then you've just got to make sure that there's an opening when you get to track out, and it's not filled with a bunch of cars that you've just straight lined by. But as you point out, Rice-Puto now it's gone around Brock. Now Brock's going to be under attack from Soto. And the best thing for Brock to do right now is just try and stick with Rice-Puto. And, you know, the old adage, sometimes the best defense is just a good offense. Stay with the guy in front of you. Don't let that guy behind you get any kind of a run on you.
The Forster's got a little bit of a gap behind him, back to Morgan Burkhardt. And Rowan Gill, the unlikely teammates here working together. Co-opetition, Greg, one of my favorite words.
Well, and this is exactly it. They are not teammates. Had Gill not had a rough start at Sebring, you know the two of them would have been going, duking it out at the sharp end of this championship battle. And right now, they understand neither of us have a shot at the win if we can't catch that group. So, I mean, just look at the focus on Morgan's face here, understanding I'm not going to make any move, but I want to push him for as long as I can, then let him get through the corner, then I'll come up and give him another nudge and get us up to that group in front. And Rick Segrini in that blue number 108 behind him is just trying to stay with him and use them. Just be close enough to get a little bit of a toe, I would think, Kyle, to be able to stay in touch.
Two notes. Rowan Gill's 243.675 is faster than everyone ahead of them, so they are closing in with this push from the number 40. And I noticed both Rowan and Morgan don't have a best lap recorded. You know what that means? They've had an off track every single lap of this race so far, all 4 that they have started.
Wow.
Which means that they are pushing the limits somewhere. Usually that's the exit at turn number 5. Here's Josh Soto having a look down into turn 1 on third place Skip Rock Jr.
And ekes through. Brock covers immediately so as not to let Schooler come slicing through as well. Now Brock feints left just a little bit. And with that kink there, you can do that, and then you can kind of ease back over and get your line. It's a nice place to defend. But the key is to get back over like he did, or it just nulls your momentum. But look at this. Looked like Soto, a little bit of a delay, maybe a slide coming through 3. And that has allowed this. Oh, and Brock there got loosened up by Schooler. You can see almost Schooler, they're going, I was at it. I'm sorry, Skip.
Pushing a shove into turn 5. Look at the late on the brakes. Latest of the late breakers. Schooler offsets himself to leave a little bit of space, but the 77 is Soto way out wide. Just enough space to muscle that car back on course. And now to the outside of Schooler comes Beans Forster.
See if Beans now can make it work around the outside. Schooler gives him some room. And I think there, it was interesting that I think Soto thought that Skip was going to do a lot more of a late dive bomb, and Soto opened the wheel up, which of course cost him to run wide at the exit of 5. And Skip Brock had it well under control and just turned nice and tightly underneath
spin!
Oh, that is Soto going around right in front of Schooler.
Oh, that car has got some big time damage to it. And Schooler has lost some spots as well. What happened? We pulled away. We were watching Gill and Burkhardt. Oh, did he miss a gear?
Oh, no. Well, Beans got into the back of him, I think, and that's what kicked him up into Soto. Watch it here. Soto slid wide.
Yep. Accordion, just like we saw at Canada Corner with the teammates getting together.
And that's a gut wrencher for Soto, Kyle, because he was 3rd in the points coming in.
Yeah, that'll hurt a lot, even with the result he got in the first race. Rowan Gill passed Forster. He's brought Burkhardt with him. They already had caught this group without that drama, but now they're in the thick of it, and they cannot lose this front pack of 3. And Skip Rock Jr., without any help from behind, might fall off that 2-horse race for first place. And if Patry and Rice-Puto get by themselves, sayonara, they're gone.
Oh, you know it. And right now, look at Beans fighting. He's not giving Burkhardt anything here. He is staying on the outside, trying not to let him get that move. Now he has to finally give up and tuck in. So now Bean's going to be drafting off of Burkhardt and Gill. Up front, Patry Rice-Puto, and then about 8/10 to Brock, but then about 2.5 seconds back to this gap. And tell you, I saw Brock, I remember at Sebring, he closed down on a 3-car group that weren't battling, that were racing very cleanly. He closed them down on his own. So let's see what he can do here, because you're absolutely right. If he doesn't stay with that group, he's in big trouble.
Preston Pardus stopped on the right. I didn't see if he was leaving pit lane or he just pulled over and stopped, rang the dinner bell or something, because he is out of this one, unfortunately.
I wonder if he missed a shift.
Oh, maybe.
And wiped the motor.
Yeah, that's actually, let me see if I can go back and find if that's what it was for Preston Pardus. Was it a 5 to 3? Nope. Just pulled over. Engine was still running.
Wow, that's interesting. Meanwhile, look at this. Forrester getting squeezed wide, but staying right with it. And Rick Segrini decides, well, I'm going to try and make that work now. Forrester turns in. Schooler, we've seen issues there before. Beautifully done. Schooler gave him room. And for Schooler, now Rick Segrini got to return the favor. He does. That's how you get through 6 and 7 side by each.
Maybe a short-term gain, long-term loss, though, with these drivers fighting. They've let Burkhardt and Gill through, and those two have not stopped working together, and I don't think they're going to stop until they're right on the heels of Skip Brock Jr. It's 2.5 seconds to make up, and they have 12 minutes to go. It's a tall task, but with how fast they're going, they could do it. Now, the leader last time by ran a 2:45.0 to a 2:45.8 for Morgan Burkhardt. So the leader was quicker last time by. They need to keep that pack and that bunch very tight and tidy if they want to run the leaders back down.
And you know, one thing that we haven't maybe talked enough about is the speed of Caleb Patry. I mean, we saw him outduel Morgan to a win, force Morgan into a rare mistake last year, and Patry is really fast. So, we probably need to be giving him a little bit more attention here, because he is just flat quick. And Rice-Puto sticking right with him. And Brock, look at Brock. He has closed those guys down again a little bit.
Yeah, out front at Road America, I mean, we talk about this as a draft track, but somebody has to set the pace. And the faster you go up front, the faster everyone is going to go, because they're all using you to run down on the straightaways with that slipstream. So Patry is towing them along at a pretty fervent pace. Now, if you flipped someone around and put someone that's down in the bottom half of the field up in front, they might lead for a little while, but they're not going to be running the same lap times, and then it'll bunch everyone up a lot quicker. That time by, Gill and Burkhardt were pretty much dead even with Patry, 2:45.1s for both, but they need to be actively eating into that lead, and Gill's gap to Brock Jr. is now 3 seconds.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it, actively eating in, because we're coming up on half distance here, and that's a big gap, especially when the guys in front are running that well. And the other question is are Forrester, Schooler, and Rick Segrini in this train, are they closing up on Gill and Burkhardt? It looks to me like they might be a little bit.
Last time by for Rick Segrini, Schooler, and Forrester, 2:45.8, a little bit slower, but they are certainly close enough. They're close enough that they can draft off of Burkhardt up the road. They're only 8/10 back, so that will help them down the straightaways. The challenge that Gill and Burkhardt have is they don't have any draft from the drivers in front. What they're hoping for is that they can just go faster, or Skip Brock Jr. Throws a wrench into the teammate battle out front, and they start to battle just a little bit.
And I think Brock's got, he's got the speed to stay with these guys. I think it would be a big ask right now. And this is an opportunity for his first podium here. You look at where he has started and run to before. This is a shot at a podium here. I wonder just how aggressive he'll be if he gets to these guys to try and throw something in. I would think on the last lap he might, but I don't think I would think he'd be smart enough to just stay tucked in, run with them, and make sure and keep those other guys behind him.
Yeah, I don't really have any gauge on exactly how hard he's driving to stay with Rice, Budo, and Patry right now. He could be at 100% and barely clinging on, or he could be lingering just within draft range, not pushing his tires. These cars are heavier than their stock configuration compared to what you normally run here in iRacing, so they do cook the tires over a 25-minute race, especially when you're leaning on them in long corners like the carousel and heavy in the brakes. So if you can save a little tire, that won't hurt at the end of this thing. Maybe that's on the mind too.
Well, and I've been watching Brock, and right as of so far, I haven't seen that car step out. He's using every bit of road, but doing it very, very smoothly, just arcing the corners. So he may have something here. It's not like those guys up front, Patry and Rice Budo, are just pitching the cars either. They're doing a nice job, but I'm not sure that right now Brock is absolutely just hanging on for dear life here to stay with him. It's going to be intriguing to see.
Yeah, 245.1 for Patry, 245.3 for Gill, so they are still not closing in. I think what Gill and Burkhardt need is for these front three to start battling a little bit. When they feel safe to do so, they might break out into a little bit of an argument here, but here's one for ninth place. This is Dean Dibdahl and Court Schmidt.
And Dibdahl making the big comeback as he was right up in the sharp end of things for most of the first race, if you recall, and then found himself in that incident late, got dumped way back, and now Court trying to get after him. Ooh, Dibdahl running a little wide there. That's going to really null his momentum onto this long run here. But on that last lap, Beans Forster ran a lap 9/10 quicker than Burkhardt, and Giancarlo Schooler was only 3/10 off of Forster. So they're there. They've caught him.
Yeah, so this group that led by Rowan Gill is back together. Now, I wonder if this is going to strengthen or weaken their charge to run down the front three. I could see it going either way. I'm also wondering if maybe there's a strategy called to flip Gill and Burkhardt around and give the 40 the advantage here. He didn't qualify all that great compared to what we're used to seeing from Morgan, so who really knows who's got the fastest single car pace, but at this point I'd almost be willing to try and experiment and flip which car's out front.
I'm with you. I think for Rowan Gill, I would think he's loath to let Burkhardt in front of him at any point, but that might be the better plan, to just see whether Burkhardt's got that little bit of extra pace and that Gill can just tuck in and draft on him. We'll see if either of them are thinking that way. If Morgan shows the nose, does Gill make it easy, or does Gill just get out of the way and let Morgan through? And the rest of that pack as they come through, I'll tell you, Giancarlo Schooler on the edge through the kink there.
Have to be. I mean, if you lift there and you don't need to lift, you're going to be giving up so much speed on the straightaways. I just remember my first time in a Spec Miata here in the rain. It was a braking zone. And, going in there at 90, and that felt too fast. They're doing it at 105 plus through there at full tilt.
Yeah, I drove a ITA Honda CRX here, and going through the kink, I could do it flat with no lift, but I would get this sort of little pogo going in the car, and if I actually just breathed it right as I turned in and then went back to throttle, it got weight on the nose and it eliminated the pogo, and it actually come out of that corner a little faster. And so, you call it a confidence lift. Sometimes it's just to settle the car, and actually it doesn't, scrub as it's sort of bouncing through the corner as much. Lots of little tricks around this place.
3 laps.
Because, really, Kyle, there's so many corners here where you are right on the absolute edge, and you are going so fast.
It's such a fast racetrack, and the kink is really the best example of that. The exit at turn 7, though, that's another place where you're right on the edge of the racetrack, and you have to carry a lot of speed, and there's just so little margin for error. Did want to point out that the front three that time through were all slower than every driver in that second pack. But is it too little too late? They were half a second quicker, that second pack was, but they only have 3 laps to go. That's a long time around here, but remember with how close it was to the white flag lap last time, if we were running even the slightest bit slower, we will have 1 less lap in this race. This means that we could be coming to the white flag this time by, and they're spreading out in the background. Rowan Gill a little wide at turn 5.
Yeah, Gill was wide, Burkhardt was way wide, and that has allowed Forster et al. To be right there at this stage. And talking about turn 7, where they're coming through here, we talk about it being off camber because you're turning downhill. And depending upon your gearing and what car you have, a lot of times you come out of 6, you do an upshift, then you do a short shift immediately because you don't want to be accelerating down through 7 because it will induce push. So that's just another one of those little things is you short shift and you get out of the rev curve just a little bit. You're still accelerating, but the car is just a little bit more planted through the corner.
And not represented here in iRacing, the gnarliest curb ever known to man on the inside apex of turn 7. You can't get cheeky with the inside one. That will launch you skyward. I mean, it looked like they grabbed that thing. We talk about Jurassic Park. That looked like the meteor that took out the dinosaurs they put on the inside there at turn 7.
Oh, it gives you a scary case of the wobblies. No question. All right, down through Canada one more time. Gill, Burkhardt, Forster right there. They just haven't been able to trim that margin. And I'll tell you what, Skip Brock is staying. He is right with Patry and Rice-Puto up front. There they are. And there's that group. They have made up literally nothing on them here. How close are we going to be?
Wow, it's such a long straightaway. 15 seconds is a long time. Here they come up the hill, 258, 257, 256. And with 2:45 laps, we will get 2 laps to go this time through.
2 to go. Oh, my.
Another half-second chunk. Oh, not quite. 10th.
Oh, and here comes Forster looking to the inside of Burkhardt. He has decided, I want to get to the front. Now, the smart thing here would be to Gill to just let him go through, turn in behind him.
Oh, no.
That's exactly how they play. Oh, now Gill ducks down underneath.
I think
now they're side by side. This is it.
Yeah, I don't think there's no white flag from the start stand, but this is the white flag of surrender that they're not going to run down those leaders, Greg. They're going to duke it out amongst themselves now for 4th place.
So yeah, it is on for outside of the podium is what you're saying. And look at that. Forster made the move. Now he's going to get absolutely freight trained. Although he will be where he wants to be, heading down into 5. Gets a little bit of a push here from Rickson Greeny. See how deep he goes. Look at the eyes, look at the focus, the concentration. Forster, car squirming on the brakes down into 5. He's there. Gill stays with him on the outside. Gill gets a little, because of the wider arc through the corner, a better run, plus a little help from Morgan Burkhardt. What happens up here in 6?
Ooh, little touch. Burkhardt's going to get put almost into the grass there at the exit of 6. Now side by side into 7. 40 takes a real short line. And they get through it okay. Now, as I mentioned, these guys have basically given up. They weren't really gaining enough to actually get back to the front. But if Patry, Rice-Puto, and Skip Brock Jr. get together and get elbows out, the leader of this pack could win this race. We saw that almost happen in the last race, so who knows?
Absolutely. I mean, touch there between the 111 of Schooler and the 108 of Rick Sagrini. They got away with it, but you're absolutely right. Those top 3 get into a major shoving match somewhere, and this could go pineapple shaped in a big hurry, and those guys running 4th and back. And look at this now, those 2 up front, it's like they found another little bit of a gear and have dropped Brock just a bit.
Oh man, Patry on the brakes. The ABS was searching on how to figure out how not to lock up into Canada corner. It was moving from left to right. This is not motorsport ABS in these cars. This is standard ABS in the MX-5, so it's not that great, and it will send you hunting for grip in the braking zones. 30 seconds left in this race, Greg. They'll be coming to the white flag this time. Really, it's the front 2 than everybody else.
Well, sometimes the ABS, you get into it too hard, the pedal sort of freezes, and then it goes numb, and you just lose your feel. There's the white flag. 1 to go, but here that means 4 more miles as they come up and through Patry. Rice-Puto a 10th back, Brock another half second back, and then now 4 seconds back. Gill and Burkhardt, that battle has cost them, but they knew it, and as you said, they just said, all right, we're on. It's best of our group now. Look at Forster working the outside.
That is so tight through there. Drops the tire in the gravel. A little bit of contact leaving turn 1, but I think for now they'll keep it straight.
This is where if he can stay here and he can pinch, and he's not going to be able to do it, and he actually gets nudged, that pinch of Schooler a little bit, but that should give Burkhardt and Gill that little bit of a clear run that they needed just to get to the throttle clean.
And for the lead, Greg.
Oh, here we go. Rice-Puto down to the inside of Patry. And Brock laying back, watching it.
Oh, is he in hot? He's in hot. Crossover from the 998.
Yep, you can see him floating wide, didn't you? And here comes Brock. Brock going to come up the inside of Rice Pudo, and this could be for second. Brock paying attention here, not driving into the back of Patry. He really shallowed up his exit there. I think that was Skip Brock being a little bit too gentlemanly myself.
Still have about half a lap left. It's a long way around here.
Yes,
That's the length of a normal full racetrack, 2 miles back to the checkered flag. Burkhardt and Beans Forster throwing it down here for 6th place. 5th place make that.
Forster protecting down into 8. Look at that. Burkhardt says, all right, I'll try the outside here. And Beans also really giving him an awful lot of room. And now he's in trouble because here comes Schooler and Rick Segrini, and Beans now, he's in flat track territory. He's doing the outside run, and it's just a wider, longer way around, and it's costing him some time.
Yeah, right at a racetrack there, had to bail out.
Now they're side by side into the kink.
Oh, watch
Forster's
that left
off.
rear. Woo, that was tight.
Oh my.
Still battling.
At least he's having one heck of an exciting lap, that's for sure.
Oh man, Schooler and Burkhardt almost wrecked each other on the back straightaway into Canada corner.
I thought Schooler was going to straight line to the apex. That would have been ugly. But Gill gets himself that little bit of breathing room. And up front, Patry over Rice Pudo. Last corner, Brock right there. These guys have been awfully gentlemanly here for the most part. Onto the front straight. And let's see now, does Rice Pudo, is he close enough to get the toe? And look at Patry swinging around, trying to do anything to break any draft. Up we go. It is a drag race. I think Patry's got it here. He comes to the line, and Caleb Patry gets it done and holds on over Rice Pudo and Brock. Gill for 3rd. Burkhardt for, Gill for 4th and Burkhardt for 5th. And Schooler, Rick Segrini, and Forster having maybe the most enthralling seat of your pants thrill ride on that last lap of anybody. Wow.
Yeah, that was excellent. And Caleb Patry had a really good exit out of turn 14. That's what really won him this race. We saw Rice Pudo try to set him up, and it just didn't happen. So Rice Pudo won race 1, came up short in race number 2. Patry lost the first race by 54 thousandths of a second and wins this one.
And by a little bit more comfortable of a margin. Not a lot, but a little bit better. So well done for him here. And there you take a look at the results. Patry, Rice Pudo, and Skip Brock on the podium. How cool is that? Rowan Gill, Morgan Burkhardt from how far back did they start that one? Up into the top 5, Kyle. Again, so impressive by those guys.
Gill started 16th, Burkhardt 15th. Really good climbs for both of those drivers. They just didn't quite get there in time, and you almost wonder when those leaders started fighting, if they had done that a lap earlier and the trailing group had been kind of in one piece, they might have had something to say about that. But great race control by Patry and Rice Pudo and Skip Brock Jr. to stay in line and keep it amongst themselves rather than bringing that second group in. All good stuff. Dean Dibdahl, another top 10. Court Schmidt, top 10 again in the 172.
Yeah, Court had that great race in the first one with Pendergrass, and in this one, he just had a really solid run in this one with Dean Dibdahl and Seth Spolman. So a great run for Court there as well. If you take a look, Jillian Victor, nice run up into 11th. Considering starting from pit lane in that first race, it was a pretty solid drive.
I would say so as well.
12th, excuse me, for Jillian.
And Rocco Pasquarelli, we saw that slide and spin. There was a couple others that had some issues here down at the bottom of the order. Noah Harmon and Max Bankin all out. But one last look at the top group there. Skip Brock Jr. again, a strong podium there. It almost had a run for second and maybe even the win.
Yeah, there was so much great racing in so many different spots here on this, as we had in that first race. But just watching how that lead trio of Patry, Rice Pudo, and Brock just understood the mission there, right? And just said, look, we've got to just stay clean, drive fast, make sure that we don't give those guys back, forth, and back any kind of any opportunity here. And they pulled it off. And when that group was often led by Gill and Burkhardt, that's saying something, Kyle.
Really impressive stuff, and another great entertaining round of racing. We've got Skip Brock Jr. joining us now. Finished third in this race, Skip. That was an exciting end to a very exciting race. Take us through your fight that you had there towards the tail end of that one with Nicholas Rice-Sputo and Caleb Patry. You weren't able to get up past him, but you threw him a pretty good fight at the end.
Yeah, I wish it was a lot more exciting than it ended up being. My plan was, I knew that they would start fighting, and my plan was to just slip in behind one of them and then use the draft, hopefully on the front straight, to get to first. But it just didn't really. I left too much room at the end of the second to last lap and couldn't really get up to them very effectively. And we just, none of us really fought as much as we planned, I think. But yeah, I mean, overall the plan worked pretty well. I just knew after I finished fourth last race that I just needed to stay up there in that front pack, and that's what I did. So it worked out.
Hey, speaking of that fourth place finish in the first race, Skip, you came from way back. Honestly, we missed you, to be honest, in the call because you were just so stealth on the way up. And suddenly when the seas parted with those guys getting together down in Canada Corner, suddenly you were there. Take us through that drive, because that was superb.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't much of a drive. The first lap, I started, I think, ninth, and the first lap, I just completely missed the braking point into turn 5. Just completely blew past it because I was too busy looking at other people, I guess. I don't know. So I dropped way back, and then I just spent the whole race driving around by myself in 9th and 10th, like the entire race, and then the seas just parted in Canada Corner. I mean, they all got into each other, and I just drove on by. So there wasn't much of a drive to be said, but yeah, I mean, I was happy with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, and obviously you were able to pick your way through that mess. I want to go back too, because we saw at Sebring, by yourself with no help, you closed down on a really fast group. So you've got the speed. You've just had some atrocious luck in these races.
Yep.
It's got to feel good to be up on the podium, a fourth and then a podium in these two races. Just letting everybody know, hey, I'm here.
Yeah, definitely. I've done really well as far as pace, and I think even racecraft over the last season I did really well, but I just, like you said, a lot of bad luck, a couple of small mistakes that just cost me dearly. And so yeah, it feels good to finally get on the podium. I've been doing really well in Spec Miata in real life as well, so it's been nice to get my name out there. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy with my pace and everything. I knew I had the pace, but I also knew at least 10 other drivers had the pace here
Well, yeah.
this weekend too. So
that's a good point. That's a really good point. Well, it's absolutely great drive. I've been watching you, for last season and everything, and witness those moments of bad luck and everything, and to see you put it together here has been really, really satisfying. Well played, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, Skip. We'll see you next week.
See you.
Moving on now to Nicholas Rice-Sputo, who finished second in race number 2, won race number 1 by the slimmest of margins. Nick, tonight was a fun one to watch. Lots of teammates battling door-to-door, nose-to-tail. But race 2, you guys had pretty well in control. Just couldn't quite get the job done in that last lap. Take us through it.
Yeah, race 2 was a little less hectic. I tried to pass him at the end of the straight. I just got a little too deep on the brakes, unfortunately, and we got back by.
Yeah, it looked like he just got in there a little bit hot, but you guys, obviously, you and Caleb and Skip Brock understood the dynamic there in that one, because you guys went lap after lap after lap with not one person showing the nose. You knew what you had to do with Gil Burkhardt and that group back there a bit, didn't you?
It's pretty rare you get a couple second gap in Spec Miata, so you got to do your best to preserve it.
Well, you did an absolutely great job, and I mean, what a weekend here, for this event. Obviously, a win in race 1 and another podium here in race 2. Well done. That's certainly not going to hurt you in the points.
Yeah, that was really good. Unfortunate in that first race, me and Giancarlo, I looked back at it and it was net code because I didn't even get a 0x on my screen. But the first race at the end of the back straight.
Yeah, and we went back and looked at a lot of replays, and we could not see any contact. So that's exactly what we thought it was gonna.
Yeah.
What had happened. That's a shame. But hey, that's part of the iRacing game, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun though. Thank you guys.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's a great drive to call.
Thanks, Nick. And we'll move on now to Caleb Patry, who won race number 2 and lost race number 1 by the slimmest of margins. Caleb, great fighting tonight. Lots of entertaining racing, pushing, shoving, bump drafting, all the things we expect out of Road America. What was out your windshield tonight?
It was kind of what you described. First race, I was up there running with the lead, and then we kind of all got together there in Canada Corner, and I was back in the pack, and Honestly, it was all kind of just a blur. The first race, it was just an intense battle back and forth between like 8 of us, which was all really fun, very clean for the most part. Then second race, again, I got the lead in 1. I just tried to zone in and hit my marks, and I could tell I wasn't really pulling away. I could see my teammate Nick there in my mirror, and then I saw my relative. A few other guys were close there, so it was just kind of maintain concentration. And then at the end, Nick went to the inside of me in 5, looked like he went a little too deep, and I just over-undered. And at that point, I knew I had a half-second lead, and I thought I could wrap it up right there.
Well, and we were talking to Skip and to Nick about the fact that you guys, when you got that gap back to the rest of them for lap after lap, you guys were just absolutely perfect in not moving out of line and slowing yourselves up. But to go back to that first race, I understand you saying it was a blur, because it felt like it does too, because for a while there was an 8-car train with constant position swaps. That was absolutely incredibly exciting. And then it all sort of came bad in that, that last run through Canada Corner where a couple of people got involved. That had to be just a crazy moment.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the first race, there was an incident where I think I went from 1st to 8th back to 8th because people went everywhere. So that was pretty crazy. And then on the last lap, I think JC and Nick got together as well down in Canada. So that seems to be the calamity corner, if you will, of tonight. A lot of action going on down there.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is at Road America, man. You guys put on a great show tonight. Thanks so much for that, and a great drive in this one in particular, just super.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And perhaps Canada Corner is Calamity Corner tonight.
I like that.
It was busy down there, to say the least. But all in all, some great racing. We expected that here at Road America. I love coming here. I wish we could do it again next week, but we have another great racetrack. This one a bit more on the grassroots side, but still famous, still historic, Greg. Summit Point Raceway in Virginia. This will be a lot of fun.
It's going to be it's a surprisingly technical little track. It's got a really long front straight, but it's a tricky little racetrack. I haven't been there in years. I'm looking forward to seeing these Spec Miatas with these drivers at the helm. Racing that place should be an absolute blast. So you're not going to want to miss that one, folks. And with that, we're going to wrap up our coverage here of round 2 of the Full Send Sims Esports iRacing Spec Miata Series and Season 2, and it all unfolded here at Road America. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And Kyle and we are looking forward to having you with us when we go to Summit Point Raceway just outside of Washington, D.C. next Monday night.